Hey everybody, my name is Steven and welcome back to the Storytime channel. Without wasting any time, let's get into our stories of the day. Entitled mother loses everything. Almost. So this happened before lockdown. My mother, entitled mother, wasn't always that bad. It began about 2 years ago when my grandpa, her father, died. Her mother died 1 year earlier. My grandparents on my dad's side both still lived and were as healthy as always and both a few years older than my other grandparents. My mother was heartbroken and suddenly changed. She always wanted to be in control of everything, so I spent more time away to study for my finals. But enough backstory, let's get on with the story. Dad equals my dad, sis equals my younger sister, entitled mother equals my piece of garbage, GF equals my loving and caring girlfriend, me equals me. Those were quite obvious, but yeah, let's start. I was 18 at the time. I was coming home from the library with my girlfriend because it was pretty late and I wanted to drive her home. I walked because it is less than 2 kilometers. It was a hard day for both of us, but the worst part was yet to come. We just wanted to quickly get in my car and drive her home. One problem, my car was missing. My dad was home and my sister wasn't allowed to drive, so it was quite obvious who took it. We had to wait for entitled mother because my dad's car was in a mechanic's garage. We waited for 2 hours before my very drunk mother drove into the garage. I have no idea how she managed to do that and got out. I asked her why she took my car and she responded with a, "You son of a witch, believe you have a right to my car?" I didn't answer because I tried not to burst into laughter because my own mother called me a son of a witch. I drove girlfriend home and drove back just to be greeted by dad. Dad says we have to talk. I say, about what? Dad says, about your mother. I say, can't that wait until tomorrow? Dad says, it can't. Why? He says, because your mother is asleep. So I then follow him to the living room where my sister sat, who looked just as confused as I felt. Dad says, so this morning I found an email. Sis and me say, why is that so important? Dad says, see for yourself. He then showed us the email. Sis says, what is that? Dad says, a brand new Mustang bought from my credit card by entitled mother. I say, so she stole from you. He says, this isn't the first time. We then spent the next half hour looking at emails which my dad received. Me, with a calculator in my hand, this adds up to more than 500,000. Dad says, and that is just the last 10 years. I say, why didn't you do anything? Dad says, in the first few years it was only a few thousand euros, but when you, speaking to me, came to the world, she suddenly bought more. It got way worse after her parents died. I couldn't leave her without risking that she fell into her hands. I could not have allowed that. But now I recently fixed some things at the bank. I have a new credit card and can block my old one by command. As you know, your mother doesn't have much on her credit card. Sis says, so you plan to go through a divorce and then bring her to court for theft? Dad says, exactly. I can save sis from entitled mother and OP can either stay with us or go his own way. I say that is a great plan, Dad. And so what happened? I left the family to live with girlfriend. My dad and mom divorced and he got full custody, and because of the proof that she stole from him, he had to give nothing to her. But because he is a great person, he gave her enough money to buy a decent house, but he went to court and she had to pay him all the money she stole from him. 650,000 euros. Dad and his new girlfriend plan to get married soon, and sis recently moved out. I, on the other hand, am still planning the wedding for me and my girlfriend. I don't blame entitled mother for her behavior. I still plan to invite her to my wedding because I have faith in humanity and hope she will change. This story went from 0 to 1,000 really quickly. If you were OP and this dad dropped the bombshell on you and you found out she stole over $500,000, what would your reaction have been? Let me know in the comment section down below. Entitled mother gets bitten by the dog she tried to steal and even got infection. My friend's grandma's neighbor had problems with predators, wildcats, weasels, and rarely foxes or other dogs. So she bought Turkish Kangal, a big dog, sometimes taller than humans, with painful bites and a real problem for bears. Yes, the Kangals are actually strong enough to fight a bear. After she bought the dog, no sheep or chickens disappeared. Some of the sheep had a few scratches, but nothing serious. I heard that some of their neighbors were jealous because they didn't have the chance to get a Turkish Kangal. One day when their neighbor was grazing the sheep, a woman tried to grab the dog. She didn't notice how big the dog was. The dog felt like it was attacked and knocked her back. She slipped and fell on the grass. The dog ran back to the neighbor and the woman started screaming. The neighbor says, "Stop screaming, weirdo. Who gave you the right to grab my dog?" "I want the dog for my kid. Plus, this isn't your garden to graze the sheep here." "This garden belongs to no one. I have the right to graze them here." "No, you don't." "Just go away."
"Not before I get the dog."
"You won't."
"Just give it to me."
"No." Entitled Kid comes over. Entitled Kid says, "Mom, did you get the dog?"
"No, this rude woman won't give it to us."
"Because it isn't yours." Entitled Kid says, "Listen there, you better give the dog to us or we will break your head." Bulgarian insult, hard to translate. "If you even look at the dog, I will break your teeth and wear them as a necklace." Entitled Kid says, "Just give us the dog to avoid conflicts." "How about you go away and tell your father the next time he makes love with your mother to wear a condom without a hole?" Entitled Kid says, "That's it." Entitled Kid knocks neighbor over. She fell on the grass and Entitled Mother tried to grab the Kangal again. The dog started barking like insane. The Entitled Mother gave up and started running and the dog was chasing after her. The dog finally got her and bit her hard. Very loud scream. After everything ended, Entitled Mother had to go to the hospital because she got an infection after she didn't clean the part where the dog bit her. The sheep were scared of the Entitled Mother's scream and started jumping around, and one of them ran over the Entitled Kid and he fell in sheep's poop. I was also ran over by sheep once, and trust me, you don't want to get ran over by a sheep. It is painful. Bulgarian insults are next level. I will break your teeth and wear them as a necklace. We will break your head. Bulgarians aren't kidding around. Give me your salary since you are so well off. I, 22-year-old female, live with another roommate, 23-year-old female. We both split the bills and rents. My parents, however, pay for my entire thing. They cover my tuition too. My dad has made sure that every one of his kids were well supported in college. I also receive an allowance from him too. In the beginning, I didn't really want to get a job and just wanted to focus on studies. My roommate used to make a lot of remarks about my privilege, and I did used to agree with her that yes, I was privileged. Then this year, I decided I should get a job and get a taste of a real world because I really don't want to burden my father anymore. I used to be part of some student organizations in my university and was in charge of handling their social platforms. I, by sheer luck, found the exact job with a really good salary. I applied immediately and got a call back. I started working the very next day. This job enabled me to live a really comfortable lifestyle where I could afford even branded clothes. I don't like the ones with names, but you know, just nice stuff that I wanted but didn't buy because I didn't want to waste my father's money. I could afford new stuff. Now, with coronavirus, my roommate lost her job, but I didn't because my work was already home-based. In fact, because of the load, I earned some extra amount. My roommate was also pregnant. She asked to cover the rent, which I was absolutely okay with. Now, for a few days, she has been trying to get me to buy baby stuff for her, but her baby isn't even due soon. I told her she can get those stuff when she finds a new job, but she started screaming at me for basically rolling in cash and not even considering a newborn baby. I told her this was not my responsibility and I wasn't the one getting knocked up when I couldn't afford to. So she screamed and screamed, called me an a-hole. I think she vented to our friends because they have been messaging me and calling me a-hole too, for not understanding her situation and just helping her. I have explained that I am the one covering the rent and feeding her at this point too. We had another argument at breakfast where she said I should give her my salary since my dad won't stop the allowance and she is a single mother that is currently struggling. I told her to freak off and threatened to move out. She said I was blackmailing her. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? I am really considering moving out at this point and just going and living with my parents. It'll save some money too. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But personally, I don't think they're an a-hole in this situation. They're already covering rent and food. I understand if it's something that they actually legitimately need for the baby, but if they want to just get baby stuff just to get baby stuff, it's not OP's responsibility, and they're already helping them out an incredible amount. They just want more and more money from OP. I'm suing because my son got second and not first. Okay, back in elementary school, we had story competitions. Whoever wrote the best story won like a $100 Indigo gift card. Anyway, so there was this kid, let's name him Marcus, who always won every single competition ever, and he was a rich kid, coming to school in a BMW while the rest of us took the subway. So in 5th grade, we had one of those story competitions, and the subject was hope. So Marcus wrote a speech about hope, not a story, a speech. And still got second because the speech slapped, but it was that, a speech. And since he got second, he started crying and screaming while throwing a fit, and his mother threatened to sue the school. She didn't. Then she started to scream at the kid who won first because she didn't deserve it and was a little witch, and tried to grab the gift card and medal out of her hand. The school called the police and she was arrested. I'm not sure if she was charged though. The top comment on this post says, "How much do you want to bet Mommy Dearest was writing his competitions and her ego took a hit when she was beat out by a little girl?" It kind of fits the story almost too much as far as the reaction of the mother. Father wasted 30 minutes of my life because he couldn't admit I was right. My dad is a real piece of work. I have so many stories about him, but let's focus on this one. One thing I can tell you about my father is that he hates being proven wrong, and he will go out of his way to keep from admitting it. And even when it's proven, he doesn't acknowledge it. Now, this story happened a few years ago and involves my dad, entitled Dad, my nephew, I can't remember what he said so I didn't put any dialogue, who is about 8 or 9, and of course, me. My nephew is into gaming and has his own Xbox 360. This was when the new gen consoles were already out, just to let you know. My nephew came back from GameStop and bought a used copy of Batman Arkham City. He goes to play it, and a while later, I get called up to the game room where my dad and nephew are at. I am told that there is a paper with a code in the game case which will give free DLC when inputted. My nephew put it in and it didn't work. He called his grandpa, aka entitled Dad, and he came and didn't know what to do. So what's his solution? Call the only other gamer in the house. I'm the only one in the house out of 4 siblings who plays video games, and they call me the expert in it. They tell me what's going on, and I immediately understood what the problem is. I don't remember much of the exchange, but I'm doing my best to remember what was said. "You bought a used copy of the game, the code has already been used up." Entitled Dad says, "Then why would they include it in the game?" "Because the original owner of the game didn't take it out." "Then the code must work." "No, it won't." "Fix it." "What?" I say in surprise. "You heard me, fix it." "I can't, the code is already used up and can't be used again." "I don't care, it was in the game, so that means it should work. Call Xbox and tell them the code doesn't work." My dad doesn't know that calling Xbox means calling Microsoft. They're just going to tell you the same thing. Note, it's a really bad idea to piss off my dad. At the time, he helped me with a lot of things I needed, aka college paperwork, rides, etc. If I upset him, he'll refuse to do anything and give the cold shoulder. "Call them." Knowing arguing with my dad would lead to my life being complicated, I relented and called Microsoft. I wasted 30 minutes of my life waiting for a live operator to answer and tell my entitled dad the exact same thing I told them. Still not liking that my dad tries to ask for a new code as they bought the game and should have it, but the operator told them that's not how used games work. Finally realizing it was going nowhere, he hung up. "I told you," entitled Dad says nothing else and leaves, not even commenting about the issue, yet seemed a bit irritated. Yeah, so that's how my dad wasted 30 minutes of my life because he couldn't bother than being proved wrong, when I was right. I have more stories about him, one in which he messed up my credit score. For some weird reason, this kind of thing makes me feel bad for those people that just don't understand. Like, I don't know, maybe it just makes my brain feel like they're getting scammed and it makes me feel bad for them because they assume, oh, well, this is how it should have worked, right? But also the other half of the story where they're so relentless about it and just refuse to listen kind of takes away that bit of bad feeling I have for them. Entitled mother tries to get her kid to stay at children's home. So this is going to be a fun one. I live in a children's home with 5 other children, ages 12 to 8, and because of this quarantine situation, there has been nothing to laugh over. Until yesterday, we got a knock on the door from a woman and a child. After hearing the knock on the door and looking out of the window to see who it was, I got a member of staff to answer it. I don't remember the exact words, but I'll try to give you as much information. So, the member of staff opened the door and asked what we could do for her.
I'd like you to look after my child for a few hours. I'll be back to collect him.
Staff says, sorry, we can't look after your child here. If you need…
No, you don't understand. I just have to go for a few hours to visit family, and then I'll pick him up in a few.
She said something along the lines of that. Staff says, no, this is a children's home, not a babysitter's. If you need someone to look after your child, you will need to look for a babysitter's or an available family member. Something along the lines of that.
Are you a parent?
No, why does that matter?
So why are you allowed to look after children?
She didn't seem to understand the amount of training courses you have to do to be applicable to look after children with conditions ranging from autism to PTSD. Anyway, this argument went on for about 7 to 10 more minutes. The staff were really confused because this was a children's home, not a daycare center. You can't just ask for your child to be looked after for a few hours. Not to mention, the child looked no older than 3. We look after 12 to 18-year-olds. The staff here tried to explain that this was a child's home and why they aren't allowed to take her child in, and that if she needed to get her child looked after, she would need to look for something like a babysitter. She wasn't having any of this. She then had a tantrum and moaned about how she tries so hard, blah blah blah. Guilttrip.exe running. After that didn't work, she tried to leave her child there by force. She left her child at the doorstep and walked off saying,
I'll be back in a few.
She then drove off. So we had this young boy with us that was no older than 3 with us. The staff called the police and I don't know what happened from there because I had to go to the hospital to have an appointment on personal health issues. I got back and he wasn't there. Honestly, what the heck was going through her mind? I don't really know what happened with the police situation, but at least we can all laugh at the stupidity of the woman. Also, side note, sorry about me not remembering half of what was said. I got bad memory. Also, if there's grammar mistakes, I don't care. I think I'm just hoping that the kid ended up all right. Sounds like a not very good mother. So whatever happened in the situation with them, I hope they're okay. But with that being said, that's all the stories we have for today. So what I want to know is which of these stories that I've read for you today are your personal favorite and why? Let me know in the comments section down below. And thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video from the Storytime channel. And again, thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.